If you've ever streamed, you know that there's a lot going on between playing games, talking with people, making sure that everything is going on in your stream. You probably know that it's a lot to keep track of. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 different ways that you can automate your stream and take some of that load off of your hands using Sammi. So get ready. This video is going to knock your socks off. I have to tell you, if you're not wearing socks, you should go and put on a pair of socks and then come back and watch the video, because I don't know what's going to happen if you're not wearing socks and you watch this video. So if this is your first time in the channel or you have not seen my previous video, I would recommend going back and watching the previous video, as this includes how to set up Sammi and make sure that it is linked with your Twitch and your OBS. The 5 different automations that we're going to talk about vary in complexity. We're going to start from the easier ones and go to the difficult ones at the end. You won't need to press any buttons. We will set them all to have triggers, so they will run independently of you. And once you can set them and forget them, they will be there and run in the background. The first one is a very basic one, and it's one that I see come up from time to time, where people are using external websites or they are using external scripts. The command that we're going to set up is one to use !clip to make a clip of whatever is happening in your stream. And the great thing is, if you do this with Sammi, you can down the road integrate it into other things, such as automatically posting it to Discord and other things like that. So to do this, we're going to go to the deck. We're going to make a new button. We'll call this clip. From here, we will double click into the button. What we will do is we will click the plus button. We will search for create clip. And you can see here we have Twitch, create clip. Add your login name, whatever it'll be for your channel, and then give a variable name. This will be important later on, but for this one, we can just say Twitch_clip. This is something that we will have to reference in the next step. The next thing we want to do is go and search for something called wait until variable exists, because what we are going to do here is Sammi is going to send a request to create a clip. This won't happen immediately, it will take a few seconds. So if we immediately go on to the next step without waiting for the response from Twitch, Sammi will get confused and will think that the clip doesn't exist. We are telling it here to wait until it sees this variable, which is when it will have a response, and we'll set this to 2000 milliseconds, which will be 2 seconds. After this, we're going to have it send it to the Twitch chat, so we can search for chat and go send chat message, and then here we can just type in twitch.tv/ and to use variables in your outputs, what you do is it's going to be $, a $, another $, and then another slash, and then in between the 2 $signs, add whatever the variable name is. So here we're going to give it the name Twitch clip. By default, it will send it to our own channel, so we don't need to do anything there. And there you go. What this will do is it will get a clip from the channel, it will put it in with this variable name, and as soon as it notices this variable name exists, it will have retrieved it from Twitch, and then it will go and output it in the chat. We will click the save and close button, and then the last thing that we want to do is we want to go to edit triggers, because we want to have this done automatically. We don't want to have to press anything, so we can go up here and we can go to Twitch chat trigger. We want to tell Sammi what to look out for in the Twitch chat to activate this button. So here, this asterisk can be used as a wildcard. It can be used when you don't know exactly what the message is going to be, but you want to give it a rough idea of what is going to be in the message. But for this one, we don't want this. We want to be very specific to make sure that this can only be triggered using the !clip phrase. exclamation mark clip. Whereas if we leave in an asterisk, this means that it could be activated using other phrases along with this, and we want it to be very specific. We're going to leave the case sensitive unchecked in case people accidentally use caps, and we are not going to check this. For this one, what we can do is we can decide who do we want to be able to use this. If you want, you can just have it set to mods. That will include you if you want to use it. So only you and your mods can use it. Alternatively, you could have it set so that VIPs or people who are subscribed to your channel, or even the first 10 people who are subscribed to your channel can activate it. It's up to you. I think using it and having mods and yourself be able to use it is quite handy, and then you can decide afterwards if you want to give anyone else access. And there you go. The next one that we're going to look at is an automated process for how to handle raids when they come into your channel. It's going to do two things. It's going to, first of all, thank everyone for joining in on the raid and say if they like what they see to maybe consider following, as well as giving a shout out automatically to whoever raided into the channel. So to start this, what we will do is we'll make a new button. We'll give this the name Raid Handler. And from here, we will double click into it and we will see all of these here. For this button, this is going to use something called trigger pull data. This causes Sammi to find specific data once a trigger happens. So for this to work, we need to be very specific about what triggers we use for this button. So for this, what we're going to do is we're going to save and close, and we're going to set the trigger before we do anything else so that we know how to handle this. We can go here to edit triggers, click on the plus button, and go to Twitch Raid. We can set a minimum for 1 because by default, the minimum number of people that will be on a raid is 1. And we can set the maximum for 10,000 because I don't think you'll ever have more than 10,000 people raiding. If you're watching this and you do think you can beat that, by all means, come and prove me wrong. Raid me with 10,001 people and I will stand corrected. Yes, I did just look for raids of more than 10,000 people while giving you all a tutorial. That's how I roll. So we can set the minimum for 1 and the maximum for 10,000, and then we can click save. Now when we go back into the button, we know what we are looking for. We are looking for the name of the person who is raiding in, because we are going to tell Sammi to find some information about them. Once you pull up this command, the first thing that you're going to want to do is go and find the pull value. You could have it set to be all, and then it will retrieve all of the data that it can when this trigger event happens. However, we can be a bit more specific and we can go to the drop down here, go to Twitch Raid, and then go to user ID. You want to use the user ID over the username because Sammi likes to work with the user ID for finding information from the channel. The last thing that we want to do on this line is we want to go and save this information as a variable, because then we're going to have it referenced later on. I skipped over it in the first button, but if you're not familiar with programming, a variable is basically a container for any sort of information. So it allows you to pass this information from one place to another place using this container. You can think of it like a box where you can put stuff into it and you can ship it from one place to another place and then pull the stuff out of it, pull the information out of it, and then it can proceed to be used. So for this, we're just going to set the variable name as raid name, and then we will move on to the next step. For the next step, we are going to tell Sammi to go and pull information about this account. So we can go here and we can search for get channel info. And here, what we want to do is give it the raid name variable. This is why we had it pull the user ID instead of the username, because Sammi will take this user ID and search for it through Twitch. So to do this, we're going to reference it. However, we're going to reference it as a variable instead of just text. So like with the previous command, we're going to use the $, and then it will automatically add a second $sign and a slash, and in between those we're going to add raid name. Then we are going to save this variable as channel info, because what Sammi is going to do is it is going to take the user ID, which comes from the first line here, and then it is going to go and find all of the information, and it is going to store it here in this variable called channel info. In the next step, we're going to send a message into chat thanking the person for the raid and asking everyone to go and give them a follow. It's also going to say what game they were playing so that everyone knows what they are doing. Unfortunately, Twitch has not yet released the API for the new shoutout command, so you have to do it the old-fashioned way. However, this does also give you the option to use the user's name and also see what game they were playing, so it is kind of nice in my opinion. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to send a chat message. You can go Twitch, send chat message, and then you can type your text here. The most important thing is that we have to refer to the variable here, and we have to go and refer to two very specific things. Number one is going to be the account name, and number two is going to be what they were playing. So before we add in anything else, we can go and add in the variables. The variables are going to be channel_info, and then you're going to add a dot, and then you're going to type in broadcaster_name. This tells Sammi to go for and pull this specific piece of information. There is more in the Sammi documentation about these. I will put the link in the description below, but for now, if you just want to know how to do it, you will type it in like this. And then for the second one, for the game that they're playing, you're going to do the same thing where you add in a variable, and it's going to be channel_info, followed by a dot or a period, followed by game_name. These two, Sammi will go and retrieve, number one, the name of the account that raided in, and number two, the last game that they were playing. After that, we can just add in whatever message we want. And then after that, the other thing that we can do is we can set an announcement for our own channel for people coming in. So if you search for announcement up here, you can see the Twitch send announcement option, and you can write in whatever announcement you want. Traditionally, people like to announce to refresh their page to get rid of the referral equals raid for incoming people, or you could do something like welcome them in and ask them to follow if they enjoy what they see. It is up to you. And there you go. You can also do a couple of different things, like with the first video where I discussed how to do things in Sammi. You could make certain elements pop up on the screen, or you could do things like that. It's up to you. It really is limited only by how creative you are with these. So there are lots of different things you can do, but the most important thing is now you know how to tell Sammi to react when you get a raid, and from there you can go and add in whatever you think is most relevant. The next one that we're going to look at is something that I think is quite fun, and I don't see it done a lot. We're going to have something happen during a hype train. So for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to have it so that during a hype train, an emote will appear on screen, and as the hype train progresses, as it goes to the subsequent levels, the emote is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that's just something nice. It's a little bit fun, and it just adds a little bit of extra personality to it. For this, what we're going to do is we're going to break it up into 3 different buttons. You could do it all in one button, but then it would add a little level of complication. Whereas with this one, it is much more straightforward because you can have the different events broken down into different triggers, which are all active on the different buttons. So for the first one, the first button is going to be just seeing if a hype train has started at all. So we're going to click on this. We're going to give it a new name. Hype train started. And from here, what we're going to do is we're going to first press on the trigger button, and we're going to look down here for the Twitch hype train trigger. And you can see once we click on this, there are a number of different options that you can select. We're going to go for the started option. This means that as soon as a hype train has started, it will set off this trigger. We are going to have it so that just a emote will appear on screen without anything else happening. So we're going to go to OBS, and we're going to go to source change visibility. For this, I have a nested scene with the emote. So we can go to the emotes scene and we can go and find the emote. And then we can just have it set so that when this happens, it will click on the visible button. So anytime a hype train starts, it will immediately trigger this, and then this will activate no matter what scene you are on, and we can use the subsequent buttons to go and change things from there. The next button is going to be checking, and every time that the hype train goes up in a level, it's going to check the size of the emote and it's going to increase the size. So this is going to be the one that is going to be used the most often. So let's go and first create the button, give it a new name, hype train level up. We can give it a new trigger, go down here to the Twitch hype train trigger, but instead of started, we are going to select the leveled up. So once we have the trigger set up for the button, we can go in here and we can go and set up what we want it to do. For this, what we're going to do is each time this button is triggered, Sammi is going to go and find information about the size of the emote in OBS, and then it's going to increase that size and resize the emote by a certain number. We could have it set so that it would just increase it by a set size. However, that would mean that we would only be able to do this once. With the method that we're going to use, it will constantly find the current size of the emote and then increase that by another number. So this way, no matter how many levels you hit in the hype train, it will keep increasing the size of the emote to ridiculous proportions if you manage to have that kind of, yeah. So from this window, what we're going to do is we're going to first use something called pull source value, OBS pull source value here. And then from here, what we want to do is we want to find the source value of the emote. The emote here is the Coati blanket emote. And once we find what information we are looking for, we're going to save it in a variable. So we can just go and save it in the variable called emote size. So that means whatever information that we do find out about the emote, we will save it in this variable here. And then over here, you can see this is a list of all of the information you could have Sammi go and search for about the emote. Things like the volume, things like the position, things like the rotation. But for this, what we're going to do is we're going to search for the X scale. This is completely arbitrary. You could have it search for the Y scale. It doesn't make a difference since this emote is a 1:1 size. However, this might be relevant to you if you have a slightly different size. For this line, we have Sammi going to find the X scale value for this emote and save it in this variable called emote size. The next thing that we want to do is search for something called change scale, and it is source change scale. And again, from here, what we're going to do is we're going to find the Coati blanket emote. And in here, what we are going to do is inside in these parentheses, we're going to write emote size +1. So what's going to happen is it's going to add the value of whatever the X scale of the emote is, and then it's going to increase it by 1. And we can do this for the X scale and for the Y scale. Otherwise, if we only have it for the X scale, the emote will go wider and wider and wider, but it won't go taller and taller and taller. Whereas if we do it for both of them, it will happen from there. And then we can go and we can see what it looks like if we run this button as is. So if I click it, you can see each time it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and we can use that. So now that we have set this up, the last thing that we have left to do is reset everything once the hype train is over. In the future, we don't want to have to reset this at any point. We want this to be automated. So what we can do here is we can click on the save and close. This button is already okay. And we can make one final button that when it sees that the hype train is over, it will return everything to how it was previously. So first, let's go and make a new button. Let's give it the name hype train ended. And we can go and we can add a trigger. In the trigger button, what we can do is we can go to the Twitch hype train trigger again, and from here we can click on the ended type. This way, this will only be triggered if the hype train is ended as opposed to anything else. Once we go in here, what we can do is we can do one very easy one, which is going to be source change scale again. We can go and find the blanket emote, and then we just set the scale to be 1 and 1. This is going to be the base scale for the emote. So once it sets this to these, it will automatically restore it to how it was at the very, very, very beginning. And what we can do now is we can go and save that, and then we can test this out, and I can show you how it looks on the large emote to be returned to the normal size. So we have the large emote here, and if I run the button once, it will restore it back to how it was at the very beginning and at the correct size. The fourth and second last of the buttons is going to do with the Be Right Back screen. If you have streamed for more than a few hours, sometimes you need to take a break to go to the bathroom, to get some food, whatever. And sometimes it is recommended that if you do go on a Be Right Back screen to show an ad in the meantime, so that people coming in subsequently for the next half an hour will not see any ads. So what we can do here is we can set it up so that as soon as Sammi notices we have switched to the Be Right Back screen, it will run an ad as well as sending a message in chat just to tell everyone that we will be right back. We will also set up a countdown timer that will show on the screen at the same time, and then this way people have a visual indicator. They can go maybe take a chance to get some food or to go to the bathroom themselves, and in the meantime we can run the ad so that people coming in after that will not see an ad. So to start with this, what we will do is we will create the button. We will go here and we will give the button the name BRB. That way we can remember what it is going to be. We then can go to the triggers button, and from here we're going to use an OBS trigger. We're going to use the WebSocket 5 for this. For 5 and 4.9, which is the previous one, they are similar in this instance for the triggers, but we will use 5. And the trigger that we want to use is current program scene changed. This is a trigger that says as soon as the scene changes in OBS, to go and run this button. So we are going to select this, and this is the one that we are going to use for now. Once you've selected your trigger, you can click on the save button, and then you can click into the button to start working on the commands that the button will run. With this trigger that we have used, there is one issue that you might have noticed. This is that the trigger doesn't specifically say to look for a particular screen. So if we leave it as is and we do not run any extra conditions, this will be triggered every time we switch any screen in OBS, which of course is not ideal. You don't want to be running an ad every time you switch to another scene. Instead, what we can do is inside in this button, we can run an if statement, and we can tell Sammi to look for a specific scene name that we have changed to before running anything else. To do this, we're going to go and we're going to search for if, and we're going to use the if statement command. And what we can do is we can set it so that if Sammi sees that the current scene we have changed to matches the name of our Be Right Back scene, then it will run the subsequent commands. To do this, we're going to go and type in global.main.current_scene. This is the current scene. This is what Sammi uses to compare the current scene. And in here, we're going to type the Be Right Back screen. The name of my Be Right Back screen is m.brb, and you want to wrap this in quotation marks. And then what we can do is it will say that if Sammi notices that the current scene that we have switched to is this scene right here, then it will do the subsequent commands. For the subsequent commands, you need to hover over this part here and you will see an extra drop down appear. If you do it down here, this will be a completely separate command, and this will run no matter if the current scene matches this name or not. So be careful to select this one in here. And then the first one we're going to do is we're going to run an ad. You can type in your login name here as well as the duration. It can be anywhere up to 3 minutes, but for this one, we're just going to set it for 90 seconds because typically I like to do a quick 2-minute BRB. So we're going to set this up for no more than 2 minutes, and you can save this variable as a commercial. This can be the variable name. When Sammi runs this, it will return some information from the Twitch API, such as how long till you can run an ad again. If you want to use this later on, this can be helpful for you to use. For now, we're not going to use it. We're also going to run a chat message. Here we are going to add a chat message as well. So as soon as this runs, it will also send the chat message. And then the final thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up a countdown timer. So for this example, we can set up a countdown timer using a example that is included on the Sammi website. What we are going to do is we will first set a timeout so we can wait for 60 seconds before we do this. So we add in our timeout here, which will wait for 60 seconds before proceeding. And then for the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to use something called a variable transition. This is one of the most powerful points of Sammi, is that you can do transitions and you can do movements and you can do them over certain periods of time. You can also do this with values as well. So for this value, we will set it as BRB time, and we're going to set the starting value as 60 and then the end value as 0. So it's going to start at 60 and then it is going to end at 0. And for the duration, we are going to set it as being 60,000 milliseconds. So this means that this start value from 60 to 0 will last for 60 seconds, so it's going to go down by 1 second each time. As a final part, what we can do here is set up a re-enable statement. A re-enable statement is essentially just rerunning the same statement until it hits a certain criteria. So for this, we will have the repeat interval as 0 milliseconds, and we're going to set this as -1. This means that it's going to keep running constantly and it will never end according to this. And inside, then we just have it updating the text source that we're going to have in OBS, and it's going to update it with this variable value, which is going to be the countdown here. What we can do for this is we can go and check for source change GDI plus. This is going to be the later version. I would not recommend using FT2 as this will be deprecated at some point. Use the GDI plus, and then here you can set what source you want it to update. So we're just going to search. I have a text source called countdown timer, and then the value that we're going to put in this statement is going to be the variable value. So again, we can put a slash and then a $sign, and it will auto complete with a second dollar and a second slash. And in here, we just add BRB time. So what's going to happen in OBS is it's going to appear, it's going to start at 60 and then it's going to end at 0, and it's going to last for this amount of time. And then that's it. This is what we can do here. If you wanted, you could also add in some other things such as unmuting your microphone or maybe changing the source to say that we are back. We can do it here with an if statement if we want to have if BRB time equals to 0, and then in the if statement we can just change the source change text, and then we can set it as countdown timer again, and then change it to we are back. That way, once Sammi notices that the variable with the countdown has reached 0, it will then go and set the countdown timer to be we are back. And then that way, what you can do is you can have it so that as soon as it reaches 0, it will update, and then you can resume everything that you want to. You could add in other things as well, such as muting and unmuting your microphone, but for the moment, we'll just keep it basic with this. And we can go and we can see how this looks in OBS. So here we are on the Be Right Back screen. So I can run this and you can see what it would look like. You can see at the bottom left we have the text, and if I press the run button here, you can see that the countdown has started, and it will count from 60 all the way down to 0, and then it will do the text. So I'm going to wait here for an uncomfortably long amount of time, and we will see what happens as soon as it reaches 0. And there you go. That is the very basic countdown timer that you can use on your Be Right Back screen. The way that we have it set up in Sammi is there is no way for this to end, this statement that we have here, so it's going to be constantly running. This means it won't stop running and it cannot be changed. Even if we want to run another Be Right Back screen later in the stream, it will still not update, it will still have the text "we are back." So to fix this, what we can do is underneath this, we can go and add a exit statement, and this is just going to break this out of the loop. You can leave it empty like this, and this means that once it reaches this point and it writes this text, it will break out of the loop and it will stop running, and then if you want to run this again, it will have reset. The fifth and final one that we're going to discuss is going to be what happens when you start your stream. If you're anything like me, sometimes you can forget to turn on certain things, or you might leave your microphone muted if you have a global microphone source. So what you can do to fix this and to make sure that you don't forget to run anything when you start the stream, you can go and make a button which will automate all of the starting commands that you want to run. It can even run a commercial if you want, and it can update everything. Make sure you go to the correct scene. So let's go and first add our final button, and we're going to give it the text "stream start." We're going to go and give it a trigger. Again, for this, we're going to use an OBS trigger like the last one, and we're going to use the WebSocket 5 for this. And what we're going to do is we're going to set it so that it's going to say when the stream state changes. This is going to tell OBS that as soon as it starts streaming or stops streaming, it needs to fire this trigger and it needs to look inside the button. As a result, we're going to need to do something very similar to the Be Right Back screen. We're going to need to add an if statement to see if the stream is starting, because otherwise this will do the same thing for both starting and stopping. So from this, before we do anything else, we need to go and find out from OBS whether it is starting or stopping so that we can update the command from there. To do this, we're going to search for OBS event pull. And then what we can do here is we can go and we can search for the current streaming state. This is going to be the stream state changed event. And then we want to look for the output active event. What we can do is we can save this as a variable, and then we can run an if statement like with the last one. So we'll just save this as state, and then we're going to add an if statement here. We're going to say if state equals true. This just means if it sees that the state is going to be active, then it will run the subsequent commands. So for this, what we're going to do is we're going to have it change to the intro scene. We're going to have it mute the microphone, and we are going to have it run an ad. For the subsequent commands, we can do them here. We will just go through them one at a time. The first one will be that we can change it to our intro scene. So from here, we can go to the switch scene, and it's going to be the m.starting. That's going to be the scene name. So it will automatically switch to the starting screen if you have one set up. Then you can also do a couple of other things. You can go to the OBS commands, and then you can go here to the source mute, and we can set it for the microphone, and then we can toggle this button. So when it switches over, it will set it to mute. And then you can also decide if you want that you can set a timeout. You can set the timeout for 10 seconds just to make sure that everything is initialized on the Twitch side, and then you can run a commercial at the start. Now this one, you need to drag it in here like this, and then as that happens, we can also have it set that after another 30 seconds, we will then start a countdown for 60 seconds so that our stream start will coincide with the end of the ad. So we will just add this in here as 30,000. And now we will set it so that we're going to add another countdown in here. So we will go and we will select the variable transition again. We will do the same as the last one, set it for 60, set it for 0, and then we will set it for 60,000. Do the re-enable statement in here, have it set for 0 and -1, and then update the countdown timer from here. You'll need to make sure that the countdown timer is also in your intro scene, otherwise this will not work. And then the last thing we do is like with the first one, we will say if the countdown is equal to 0, first things first, we need to go and make sure that the microphone is unmuted again. And this time we do not have to check this box. And then as a last thing, we can go and do the exit again. And then this way, what's going to happen is as soon as we start streaming, no matter what scene OBS is on, it will go to the starting scene, it will mute the microphone, wait 10 seconds, run an ad, and then as the last 60 seconds are coming up, it will go and it will start a countdown. And then once the countdown reaches 0, it will go and unmute the microphone and break out from the loop. You could even set it so that the music will go and start and then go and mute as soon as the timer reaches 0, or you could make it more complicated. But for this example, I thought we would just keep it simple and make it something that you can follow and do, and then you can add in whatever else you want for yourself. And there you go. These are 5 examples of how you can automate your stream using Sammi. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below. And if you have anything else that you would like to see, why not also write them in the comments down below? And if you liked what you saw and or you like my face, why not consider liking and subscribing to see more of it in the future? So, I need to automate Sammi to end my recordings when I am done. But I haven't. But maybe I will. But for now, goodbye.